So I'm here with Lorna Robinson of the Iris Project.
That's right.
Can you maybe explain a little bit about the Iris Project first before leading us through what we've just done?
Sure. The Iris Project is the name of the charity I run, which I set up in 2006. And essentially it's a charity which gets Latin, ancient Greek, ancient civilization into state schools, particularly focusing on schools that we feel wouldn't usually get those opportunities, so maybe in sort of big inner city estates, those sorts of areas. And we have a number of different projects that we're running at any one time, so we have lots of different angles that we're focusing on. But that's the core of the project.
I mean, you say setting up a charity, that sounds, to my mind, quite a difficult thing to do. So how did you go about doing that?
Well, essentially, I mean, obviously for the technicalities is that you apply for the Charities Commission and you explain your aims and then they agree. So that bit in many ways is the easy bit, the sort of technical. The rest of it is more of a challenge. But it was really a gradual evolution. So it started because I was teaching at Wellington College. I'd just finished my PhD and I wanted to be a teacher because I knew I loved teaching. And Wellington College was a lovely school. I had a class of A-level Greek students, which is really lucky to have. But I found myself feeling dissatisfied, feeling that I was, in a way, just caught up in this system where I was putting my energy into teaching children that would get classics anyway.
So Wellington College is an independent school?
It is. It's one of the public schools. It's in Berkshire. Okay. And as I say, a lovely place to teach.
Yeah.
But I felt if I stayed in this system that I wouldn't really be making a difference, and that made me uncomfortable.
You're preaching to the converted in a way.
Yeah.
They're doing it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And also that these were children that, they had very privileged lives. They were going to go on to have very privileged lives because that's the way our society works.
Yeah.
So I had a kind of many weeks of thinking about this, and initially I came up with the idea of running a magazine, which would be given free to state schools and private schools would pay for. And I thought that this might be one way of getting classics more out there.
And you do have this magazine?
And we do have this magazine. That was set up and it's still running now, sort of 3 issues a year.
Yeah.
And we still give it free to state schools and we sell it to private schools and individuals as well, subscribe, and universities. And that's all continued. But once I'd set that up and it was running, I started thinking about other ideas. I started thinking, well, maybe there's something sort of more proactive I could do, sort of going in on the ground. So, and I've been thinking for a while, while teaching Latin, about just how well it fits into learning English. And so I approached some primary schools in Hackney with the idea of teaching it as part of literacy. And I chose Hackney really because I felt that this was sort of the classic area that the kids would probably not get Latin. Yeah. And there was a sort of, one of the head teachers was great, sounds great, and one was more cynical initially. But really pretty soon after starting it, they realised how relevant it was, because once you see Latin in action, you actually see the connections that are being made by the children.
Right, to our own language, and even to the way language is put together.
Yeah.
It's a really good lesson, actually, for that.
Yeah, perfect.
I mean, I started to learn English when I started to learn ancient Greek, in a way.
Yeah.
So you understand how the language works.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it, actually. And that's what the children would say to us. They would say, it really helps me understand my literacy.
And of course, I guess the kids get excited too because they're getting this insight into this ancient language, kind of like a code.
Mysterious.
Yeah, mysterious.
Yeah.
And they've got it, and
totally.
That makes it kind of cool.
Totally. They were very proud that they're learning Latin. Because, I mean, in many ways, they didn't have many associations with Latin, the parents and teachers did, but some of them did. Some of them were aware that this was something that they wouldn't necessarily usually get to learn. And they liked that about it. And I like being able to give that to them, because I felt, I don't know if you've ever seen it, there's this advert on television where they're talking about privileged people and they're saying, oh, well, you can't do this if you haven't gone to a public school and learned Latin. And I sort of thought it's such a shame that is an immediate assumption, and every sort of extra kid that gets to learn it from not a privileged background helps to destroy that.
Yeah, there's no intrinsic reason why Latin or Greek should just be for the privileged.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's there. It's got something for everybody.
Totally, and it's just, well, the reasons are, I guess, people tell me, I wasn't born at the time, I don't think, that when the national curriculum came in, that was when it started to sort of, because my mum went to a school in the middle of Corby, a state school, and sort of a big immigrant town, and she learned Latin.
Oh, fantastic.
So, and I found myself thinking, things have changed so much.
Yeah. We have to kind of fight, in a way, much more.
Totally. But I think within that fighting, there's so much passion from classicists to fight, because they know that they need to fight. So
you go into schools, and schools in one particular area or around the country?
The main projects that we run, which are the Latin project and the Ancient Theatre project, and the Ancient Greek project is much newer, are run in Oxford and London, and specifically in London, in the inner London boroughs, so like Hackney and Lewisham. I think we're represented sort of across a lot of them. In Oxford, we focus on East Oxford, so Cowley, Blackbird, Lees, and here in Bath.
In the more deprived areas of Oxford.
Yeah.
There is another Oxford.
There is.
It's not just community spires.
I know, and this is such a common preconception I get. People say, well, I see why you're in London, but what are you doing in Oxford? And I sort of think, well, I could show you some, there's the Dreaming Spires that is Oxford to so many people, but there was the big car factories and all the houses that were built up for that, and there's such a big gap in a way between North and East Oxford, for example. So that's the areas where we run the projects, but we make our resources, the Latin course that we use, Graham's fabulous play scripts, they're all...
We should wave to Graham.
We should wave to Graham. Who's off camera, hiding behind a locker. Slightly odd. And they're all up online, free for schools across the world to use, because we both agree in this sort of, to use a computer programming term, you can tell I'm married to a computer programmer, the open source idea, which is that nothing's locked down, the information's not locked down, it's available to anyone. And we get emails from, I got an email recently from a school in Barbados saying that they'd used one of Graham's plays in an assembly.
Fantastic. What's the website?
It's www.irismagazine.org.
Great, we'll have a link on our website for that.
Fabulous, that would be great. So, yeah, I'm trying to remember what your original question was now.
Well, no, you've answered my original question, and I thought it led perfectly into why we're here today. We have a few Greek or quasi-Greek artifacts on the table in front of us. Tell us what we've been doing today.
as a team. We've had an artifact session. We're running Ancient Greek in Bayards Hill Primary School, which is the only primary school in Barton. It's a big double-entry school, and the children are actually learning Ancient Greek every week. And we're combining this with learning about ancient civilization and also ancient theatres, so it's part of the theatre project which Graham oversees. And so today we thought we would bring in a whole variety of replicas of artefacts and
the Ashmolean wouldn't lend us. Maybe next time.
Maybe next time. Big no from them. So we sourced some, we used our initiative, and we made some. Lots of spilling tea on the stuff, and these are some of them. And so we split the children into groups, gave them a worksheet to help them lead through. But the idea was really to make them think about, how do we know stuff about the ancient world? What do the objects that people have found tell us, and how to think about them?
Right, because the artefacts don't come with an instruction booklet.
No, or a worksheet, in fact. It's very much that they have to use their initiative, which is a good lesson for them.
Working out what the objects are made from, who might have used them.
Yeah, what letters might be on them.
And what this might say about the culture more generally.
Yes, exactly that. And I really found, when we were all circulating among them, that they were asking, so they were thinking along some sort of really interesting and intelligent lines about it. And it's easy to, I was trying to cast my memory back when I started learning about ancient Rome and Greece, and I feel like I didn't really think about how they found the stuff out.
It's not the kinds of questions that were asked then, I think.
No.
And actually they're kind of the ones that really get you hooked.
Totally, because then it's this process of discovery. And I think with this session I wanted to make them feel a bit like they were researchers, on a dig or something.
I thought that was great. Actually, and really hands-on experience for the kids too. There's nothing like when you're a kid to actually grab hold of something and play
Feel
around.
it in your hand.
As long as you're doing it delicately.
Yes, which they did. Those chips
Yeah.
were Graham's ones. So that's great. And yeah, no, it seemed like they all had fun and learned something from it, and I enjoyed chatting to them about it. And it looked like you did as well.
Oh no, I had a thoroughly good time. I was really put
Yeah.
on the spot on several occasions.
Oh, they do, don't they?
Yeah.
There's nothing like sort of private people ask you a question and you think, oh my goodness, it's a really good question. So,
I don't do artifacts.
But and next week we're going to be back to the ancient Greek, and we've got a session on democracy, which Graham designed, which is a brilliant session actually, where they all get to vote, and so we're bringing in a
fantastic
vote, and it makes them think about, well, we vote now, where it comes from, and what it means to vote. And I was actually thinking about this while teaching the lesson today, that voting is really low turnout, to be honest, and in areas like this particularly, a lot of their parents wouldn't bother to vote.
Yes, and you were showing one word today. You were showing a Greek word on the board and getting the kids first of all to pronounce it and then to see the English derivatives, what words we get from it.
Yeah.
And there's one word I thought that was really quite pertinent, and that was idiotis.
Yeah, and they were sort of like, well, it's obviously idiots.
But where does it come from?
Yeah.
And as you quite rightly pointed out, for the ancient Greek, you're an idiot if you don't participate in government, in the democracy.
Yeah, totally.
And that's not the way we think about being.
No, it's not.
Maybe stupid, but
maybe we should. Oh no, that's a bit harsh actually. But certainly, I know people are always trying to think how to engage people in politics.
Yeah.
And so many people are put off by it. But I think part of it is, I think a lot of people don't feel like they are part of it.
That's right. We don't really feel part of it. Well, lots of people don't really feel part of it, particularly, as you say, people who come from less privileged areas.
Yeah. So I hope maybe they take a little bit of this idea away with them.
Yeah, which shows really just how important the study of classics is to communities, especially such as this.
Totally, yeah, and it's very difficult to explain on paper to people, and I do get a lot of people saying, what is really the point?
Yeah.
But I would hope that if they saw that sort of thing in action, they'd realise, well, that
there's much more to it, actually.
Yeah. So that's our artifact session.
I won't put you on the spot now by asking you to identify them.
For the best.
And I'm hoping that you won't, me either.
No.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be involved in today's session and to have a chat with you now, and I'm sure that you'll be a regular appearer on our website. I really hope so.
Yeah,
I think it'd be a good way to communicate just how important classics is to everybody.
Well, it's been great to meet you as well.
So many thanks for everything, and see you again soon sometime.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.